are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Sunday. We did a TikTok live yesterday. Today, we're doing a Substack live. And I really wanted to do this because I enjoy Substack. It's a little more calm than what we get on TikTok. But I get the opportunity to bring in TJ and Rebecca. Now, they end up on the lives a lot with TikTok, but they're also moderators, and there's also a ton of motherfucking people out there talking their asses off. So I don't always get a chance to talk to TJ and Rebecca, which is unfortunate because of the group, they're probably the most normal. Now that's not saying a lot, but they're the most normal, and they have some great insights. So I'm glad we were able to do this Substack Substack live. So how you guys doing today?
Good, but you're giving us a lot of credit by saying that we're normal, because I would
Yeah.
push back on that a lot.
If you saw our house, I don't know if you would think that we were normal.
Yeah. Well, I'm just pimping the show here. Go along with me.
Hey,
now,
yeah. My number one question is: today is Sunday, or no, today is Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck happened to Ed?
Oh, I'll tell you what happened. It wasn't Ed's fault this time.
Oh,
I was ready to record with Ed. Okay, and my wife was at work, and about 10 o'clock, an hour away from talking to Ed, I get a call from my wife and says, "Yeah, Mike, I'm at work, but I'm going to Fairview Southdale Hospital." I go, "What the fuck happened?" She goes, "I think I broke my arm." I go, "What?"
What?
She goes, I gotta go in there now. I gotta go in there now. Just come out here." So I had to go out there, and I had to cancel Ed, and I'm sorry I had to do that. When I got there, she didn't have a broken arm. She basically, she works at the airport, and there's these rugs that are piled on one another, and she tripped over it, and she fell on her elbow essentially, and maybe hurt her ribs a little bit too. Fortunately, nothing was broken. Nothing was broken, but she's in a lot of pain, which means I'm in a lot of pain. So we
Right.
share those things. We like to share those things.
Wasn't she recovering last night when we did the podcast? Was that the same thing or something else?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, that's right. She was recovering last night because it happened yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I said to him today, I'm like, I missed the first part of that live yesterday, and I was like, "What happened to Cindy?" He's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Well,
that's important with Cindy, and we're trying to take care of her, and she's doing all she can to stay out of pain. But as we're recording this on Saturday night, this is a momentous night. This is April 25th, and that is my granddaughter's birthday. She's 5 years old today.
Junie's 5.
Junie's 5.
She's 5. That's the big one. That's the big one.
That is.
But when you hear this on the podcast, it'll be the 27th. No, today's the 26th. Tomorrow will be the 27th, and we're having a big party here. So while you're listening to this, I may be playing Pin the Tail on I don't know what the fuck, because she wanted an Inside Out 2 party. So we all got T-shirts and stuff. It's gonna be off the hook. There's no question about it. A 5-year-old birthday party.
Yes, for sure.
You know what's interesting? But go ahead.
No. Go on, Mike.
No, I was just going to say it's kind of appropriate that I'd be at a party for 5-year-olds based on some of the goofy shit that's going on in politics. I mean, Pete Hegseth. I mean, every minute there's something more about Pete Hegseth coming out. This guy is just getting decimated by the press and apparently everybody around him because nobody can stand the motherfucker.
Well, it's kind of ironic because he acts like a 5-year-old, so
he certainly does.
Makes sense.
He's just the biggest joke. He's such a joke. He's a joke. He's a complete joke.
Well, and the thing about it is that everybody knew he was a joke when he was nominated. Even the Republicans knew he was a joke, but the Republicans bent the knee to Donald Trump and confirmed him. So now he's the director of the Department of Defense or the Secretary of the Department of Defense,
Mhm.
And I think you and I talked about this before that we know it's just a matter of time before he fucks up. Little did
Right.
we know he fuck up every day since becoming the
Yeah,
Secretary of State. Literally.
Yeah.
I said that last night. Like his triumphant fuck ups are so way worse than we ever thought they would be.
It's so bad. I
That,
knew he'd be a train wreck, but I didn't think right out of the gate it would be major national security breaches. I just didn't see that coming.
well, we've got Signal Gate 1, Signal Gate 2. Everybody in the Department of Defense hates him. He's going to meetings with his brother and wife. He's taking his brother on trips on government planes. He's got a drinking problem. We don't know if he's drunk half the time when he's talking to the public. He's now getting arrogant, little paranoid. He's yelling at everybody. He's suggesting the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff needs to take a polygraph because he thinks he's the leaker. The ironic
Right.
thing about it is he's pissed off about somebody leaking the fact that he's leaking. He's the one that's leaking. He doesn't care about the crime. He just cares about somebody who's tattling on him. But you sent me a link just
Yes.
a short time before this, and this one I find really intriguing, and I'm going to be interested to see if it gets any legs and we hear about it. But go ahead, tell us about that.
Well, it was a report from Der Spiegel, which is a German, very popular German news outlet, and it
Right.
said that the German intelligence agency, I don't know what the name of it is, but the German intelligence agency had detained two Russian spies, and in their phones they had Pete Hegseth's private number
Personal number.
in their phones. Russian spies. So what does that tell you?
That tells me if it was a normal situation, this guy'd be in handcuffs and he'd be interrogated right this second because that sounds very shady. I mean, it's not like he got that off of. It's not like they stole that information. It's in their fucking contacts for God's sake, like they
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
or text on a regular basis.
yeah, yeah. So, not maybe not a regular basis, but obviously they know each other regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
They, they just didn't have their have Hegseth's number in their phones for fun.
So,
There's a reason.
are they the next in line for the whiskey leaks?
Whiskey
Well,
leaks.
yeah.
Yeah, they're
Well, well, I mean, if they're putting everybody on these signal chats and you know he's got these Russian spies on speed dial. It's reasonable to presume he might be passing on some uh, uh, top secret information either on purpose or inadvertently, like Donald Trump tends to do. He didn't know it was top secret. I just sent it to
right.
him, and whoopsie, whoopsie. Donald Trump's
Right.
done that with Russian spies too.
Right. Well, imagine this too, though, is that Hegseth got caught on two signal chats. Signal gate 1 and 2. How
Right.
many other signal chats have happened that nobody knows about?
I want to know.
Well,
Can I request Pete Hegseth on Signal Chat and he'll just add me and maybe it'll be me next?
yeah. Well, Rebecca, I wouldn't do that because that frat boy would probably send you a dick
I
pic.
would I
He'd
would
probably
never.
send you a dick pic. And you don't want to do that. That would be a ridiculous.
It
Uh,
would be while drunk. So
well, he quit
We we've
drinking now that he got the job.
we've seen needles before, so we don't. You know.
Well, I mean, here's this guy, and Donald Trump is trying to stand behind him simply because Donald Trump can never admit he's wrong. It makes him look weak. Little does he know everything he does makes him look weak. But there's got to come a point when everybody in the Defense Department hates him or doesn't trust him. He's
Right.
erratic. He's paranoid. There's got to be a point where they kick his ass out the door. It's got to be coming at some point soon.
You would think, um, but I think I brought this up yesterday. Are they going to kick him out and face the optics of throwing him out? Because the last Trump presidency, it was like the revolving door of idiots out of the cabinet. So, and that was a bad look, you know, optics wise for
no,
Donald Trump.
they're gonna find a way for him to resign.
Yeah, I really think that they're going to
He'll resign and
make.
it'll be whatever the excuse is, he's going to make some excuse and he'll
Yeah,
resign.
they're going to force him into that. I just don't see them firing. I don't see Donald Trump firing him. You know, I would think that because if they get rid of him, if he resigns, Donald Trump can actually circumvent Congress by appointing a temporary replacement,
Right,
right?
right.
So he can actually circumvent um, Senate approval. So it might be um, a strategic move for his bullshit operation to get Hegseth to resign and then appoint another evil motherfucker into the position.
What do we think?
Yeah,
Elon Musk for Secretary of Defense?
no, I think Elon's worn
He's
out his
toast.
welcome at this point. I think honestly, the people around Donald Trump, after an embarrassment like this, will try to get somebody a little more reasonable. Now, reasonable when it comes to Donald Trump is subjective, but
That's
I,
nothing.
now, I think Pete Hegseth will come out and say, I love the job, but I gotta resign because I need to spend more time getting blackout drunk. I just don't get the
Yeah,
opportunities I once had.
yeah, yeah.
Well, he does it at press conferences. Why? What's different?
Yeah,
He's got his rock.
he does
He's
seem
got
a
his
little
rocks
off.
glass. Yeah, he's got his rocks glass under the podium.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. David Strollo says he plays makeup like a 5-year-old. Well, that's a good point. I said this on the live yesterday that you got Pete Hegseth with a makeup room. You got JD Vance with a eyeliner. You got George Santos, who's going to jail for 7 years. And I saw him after he got the verdict, and he was an angry, angry little drag queen. He was
Yes, he
upset.
Yeah.
He
was.
was
He
pointing his
was.
fingers. Well, sorry, George, your lies and your bullshit are done. You're going to prison,
All right.
and I hope you have a fucking wonderful time. But with all
Well,
these people that deal with makeup and being a drag queen, these all seem to be opposite of what Republicans stand behind. Why do they support these fucks so much?
I don't know.
Why is it okay for Pete Hegseth to have a makeup room and drag queens to be like the antichrist? I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's troubling. The thing about Pete Hegseth being the Secretary of the Department of Defense, all the issues with Signalgate, I think it really puts us in a very vulnerable position because I've said before, do we even have national security? I don't believe we do. I mean, if
No.
the people at the highest level throw it out there for anybody to find, we don't have national security, which is a
No,
problem. And then when our
Well,
Department of Defense is in chaos, what happens if something big happens? Somebody attacks us. We're fucked.
right.
yeah, right. You're right. But you know what our national defense is? Those people in the military and the police force and what those people that don't agree with him. That's going to be
Yeah,
our defense.
Well,
I hope
here,
so.
here's the thing, though. Like, we, as a current status, we don't have national security for sure. But remember that when Donald Trump stole all those documents, there was rumors going around about flash drives being found with documents
Right,
that had been scanned into them. So not only do we have the inmates running the asylum on national security, we also have a huge amount of documents that have probably been given to our adversaries.
right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, and we don't know who's
What
gotten what.
No.
Right, and at this point, do they want them or not? Because we're such a shit show. Like, are
Well,
those
they definitely
documents
want them.
even? Or yeah, but are those documents even like a thing? Because they have so much more against us now, anyway.
Well, our
Yeah,
nuclear secrets are a thing.
Yeah, but they're not like. What does that even matter right now? Like, seriously, it's what does it matter? Like they
well,
are like.
that's almost how you have to look at it. I mean, the cow's out of the barn. Now it isn't an issue of trying to keep things secret, just trying to keep us safe. We don't know what they know. Over and above what's going on during this term, we know Donald Trump had boxes and boxes of classified documents. We know he
Hmm.
disseminated them to other people. Are there any more secrets in this country?
But why do they need any of those secrets? Like, we are self-destructing. Like, are those secrets like they can hold them for whatever? But like, we're already self-destructing. Do they need that?
Well, they already
Well, that's
have
a
it.
good point. That's a good
But I
point.
mean, like, what do they need to use it for? Because we're self-destructing. Like, so do they need to use any of that against us? We're losing our freaking shit over here. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Everything that the Russians and the Chinese wanted to get and spent years with spies and espionage and all this stuff. Apparently, it's wide open, man. It's just wide open, and they can get all these things. And I guess we should be thankful that nothing tragic has happened as yet. Because if
Yet.
something bad does happen, I don't trust Donald Trump or anybody else in the upper level government to know what the fuck to do.
But you know what? I don't like to scare people, but the way things are going right now, I gotta say, I feel like in the next 2 years or less, there's gonna be something that happens. Because if there was ever a time in our history of this country where terrorists want to attack us, now is the time.
It really is, and you hate to say that. You hate to
I
put that
do.
in the ether. You hate to put that in the ether. But if you look at logically, we've been pretty strong with our security and our defense. We are the weakest we've ever been, thanks to Donald Trump. And if there is somebody who wants to come after us, now, I'm not saying Russia's going to come after us or even China. They don't need to. They're
Right.
taking control anyway. But when you get
they,
some of these smaller nations like people in Yemen or other parts of the
The
Middle East, these little
right. The
factions that will come up with dirty bombs or whatever the fuck they do, this is a great opportunity for them.
Yeah, I worry the most about the Iranians. They're the ones that are probably the most likely to commit something like that. They're they're people underestimate the Iranians. They are sneaky motherfuckers, and they have technology. We've seen that already because the Iranians gave the Russians a bunch of their more technical drones to use in the Ukraine war, and they're not ineffective drones. So
No,
I worry the most about the Iranians, getting Donald Trump stirring the hornet's nest with them already, making threats to them, and so I wouldn't be surprised if that is where it came from.
no, and we know that Iran doesn't like Donald Trump. There's been a contract on him for a while, and Donald Trump's been worried about it. And then, as far as
Right?
those drones, we know those drones were probably used in the recent attack by Russians on Kiev. So,
Sure.
because Russia got a bunch of drones from Iran, and yeah, it's potentially dangerous. I've got a couple people making comments. Boston Dave says, new nickname for Hegseth, Powder Puff Pete, regarding his
Powder
makeup.
puff, a powder puff, Pete.
Boston Dave also said, isn't his dick pic his government headshot ID? That's distinctly possible with a frat
That
boy like that dumb
that
fucker.
that's legit. That's
yeah.
legit.
It is. It is. I'll be at a perfect time to manipulate the media into covering it instead of something idiotic that Trump does. I'm not sure what that means, but
Mm,
Donald is too weak to fire anyone. He's just pathetically weak and ineffective, and he really is. He gives off this thing like he's strong and he's powerful, but a perfect illustration of how weak he is. He told us he would stop the war with Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours with a phone call. We're 3 to 4 months into it now since he said he could do that, and he's becoming flustered. As I've said before, I think he thought he could go into Zelensky, pressure him because he's so mighty and so powerful. The power of the United States forced him to just give in to Vladimir Putin. Well, he didn't do that. That frustrated Donnie. He went back to Vladimir. Now, Vladimir is basically thumbing his nose at Donald Trump by bombing Kiev and
right.
talking some shit. Well, Donald Trump went and he was at the Pope's funeral, and boy,
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
representative he was. But
Oh
he met
yeah.
with Zelensky. He met with Zelensky, And you could see the frustration because he says, "Well, I don't know. I don't know if Vladimir Putin even really wants to stop the war." Uh, and he basically said, "I think maybe he's just playing me." Yeah, you think, Don? You think
Yep.
Vladimir
Really?
Putin's playing you? Oh, nice that you
every
woke the fuck up.
every motherfucker's playing him. And I had to laugh. I really wish that I could have heard the whole conversation between those two, but I really had to laugh when President Macron came out and he shook Zelensky's hand and then he snubbed Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I just chuckled.
it's fucking gold.
Yeah, that
Gold.
was a gold moment. Just because but Macron's right. I mean, like that's how Europe feels about him right now because of his bullshit. You know, what threatened Europe with tariffs, and I mean, Europe and Canada and the rest of the world and the Australians, they've had enough of his bullshit already. So Macron did the right thing by snubbing Donald Trump.
But I think a lot of people are afraid to just get too near him or to appear to be friendly with him. We know what it did to Barack Obama. We know what it did to Bill Maher and some other people that even got close to him. People dislike Donald Trump so much. If you look like you're doing anything friendly to him, you're going to get
Mm-hmm.
canceled too. And I'm
Sure.
sure Macron. I mean, Macron not only has to worry about Americans, he has to worry about every other country in the world because they all hate Donald Trump. There isn't a
Right.
country that likes Donald Trump, including Russia. He may act like he likes Donald Trump, but he's just making fun of him and playing him, and Donald Trump
Well,
doesn't realize it.
I can't imagine that Donald Trump is particularly popular with the French people
My
right now either.
Oh,
So
my
it's
my
not in his best interest.
my cousin lives in Paris, and she said it's bullshit there. Like they hate him. Like everybody hates him.
Boston Dave says TJ and Rebecca, great Devo pick.
Where is it? Right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's admiring your Devo pick. You're one of the few
Devo
people
is
I know
my
that actually.
Devo is my all-time favorite band. We got to see them last year at Punk Rock Bowling in Vegas, and it was like the highlight of my life.
Devo puts on a good show. I'm not
They
gonna
do.
lie, they kick ass.
Every time I tried to see them before, they canceled the show for some reason, and I finally got to see them last year, and it was the highlight of my life. So thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. I think
Well, Devo.
Boston Dave is if I it should be the same guy. Boston Dave is actually from the same county that we're from.
Oh, really?
He's in like a couple. He's from a couple towns over.
Oh,
That
okay.
that's where Boston Dave is from. But he I
I got
naturally
you.
doesn't live here anymore. But I've had some um, TikTok conversations with Boston Dave. So shout out to Boston Dave.
Boston Dave. Kevin Riley says, "Why was Trump wearing a blue suit when everyone else was wearing black funeral attire?" I've seen some bigger pictures. There were other people wearing blue suits, but Donald Trump,
There
as he
were.
usually does, sticks out like an orange and blue fucking thumb.
Exactly. I mean, I think that might have been his point in that whole thing. Like he wanted to stand out, so I think he wore the blue suit so he would stand out in the crowd because he knew everybody else would be wearing black.
Orange and blue. Well, I guess he sucks like the Chicago Bears, right?
Wow. And Rodson says Macron ultimately did shake Trump's hand. I didn't see that, but it wouldn't surprise me. Donald Trump probably cornered him and begged him to do so. Um, do you think Donald Trump realizes how much he's hated? I mean, because Donald Trump really thrives on adulation and support and people thinking he's great. It's got to be killing him to know that people just don't like the motherfucker.
Oh, it's crushing him
Oh, it's
inside.
crush. Well, he does not like he thinks he's like like super. I don't know. Sorry, he thinks he's the man. Like he doesn't
Oh,
see
he
any of
does.
that. Like he thinks that that's like fake news and whatever like whatever his thing is. Like he thinks he has like 100% approval rating in every poll.
Right. He believes that all these world leaders love him, and that he can't even fathom the fact that they would hate him. You know what I mean? That's why when he went to meet with Kim Jong Un,
Yeah,
he that was like a defining moment for Donald Trump, and that's why they said they exchanged love letters because Un was like so happy that he finally got to be relevant on the world stage, which is a big fuck up for Donald Trump to give him
absolutely.
legitimacy, and so of course Kim Jong Un was kissing Donald Trump's ass and being his best BFF, and Donald Trump thinks that put into Donald Trump's mind that that's how the other world leaders view him, and it's not reality, as we know. That the rest of the world leaders fucking hate him, except for Putin, who makes him up the perfect puppet, and other adversaries that we have
uh,
around the world.
the
So
job of his staff has to be insane because they have to shield him
yeah,
from all the bullshit that like is actually out there. Like they like everything that people are saying, like their job is to shield him from that. That
yeah,
has to be fucking taxing.
and that's factual because when he was forced to sit in court all those days in New York,
Hmm.
he'd have all those stacks of papers, and the journalist could see what he was reading. Like he had these pages, and his people, his I don't know if it's his inner circle or his whatever, his assistants, I guess. They printed all these articles that were, flattering to Donald Trump. So he could read all these things that boosted his ego and made him feel like he was number one. But surely there was no articles in
Factual
there.
information.
Yeah, there was surely there was no factual information in there, about negative stories about Donald Trump, because there'd be catch up on the court walls if Donald Trump sees those types of stories. So I have to shield him from all these things.
Yeah, when he's asked about situations in the news, and he frequently says, "Well, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. I'll have to check that out." Now, a lot of times people think he's just diverting or distracting from answering a question that he perceives hard. But I really wonder how much he really does know. I mean, we know he doesn't read. We know the people around him shield him from things that may be considered bad in his mind. Maybe the fucker just doesn't know anything from anything.
I agree with that about 75%. I think there's some things like Pete, as it was put last night, Pete repeat. Like
Yeah.
maybe he knew a little bit about what was going on there, but like I don't think he knows jack shit. Like he doesn't know what's going on anywhere except what his people tell him.
I will tell you this about the Ukraine-Russia war. Donald Donald Trump keeps saying, "Well, there's a lot of people dying. It's horrific. I just want to stop the war." What you have to understand about Donald Trump doesn't want to stop the war because he gives a fuck about anybody. He wants
Right.
to stop the war so he can win the Nobel Peace Prize. This is something that's bugged him ever since Barack Obama won it. He wants to one up Barack Obama. How dare a black man one up Donald Trump? That's just something that he can't stand with. So he's hoping he can end this war so he can get the award that he so richly deserves.
That's the most delusional thing ever. Even if Donald Trump somehow took the credit to win the Ukraine, or end the war, they're not going to give that motherfucker the Nobel Peace Prize. There's no fucking way they're going to do that.
No,
That's just not realistic. I mean, in his mind, he thinks that he can be the hero. He can be, you know, propped up to be the savior of the whole thing. But it's all bullshit. Like even if he got the press he wanted in that way, they're never going to give him the Nobel Peace Prize.
I
Let's
was
be
no,
real.
hell no.
I was dying laughing because he made he tweeted, "I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kiev. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done." And somebody commented, "To end the war, text stop to Vladimir."
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is he's becoming frustrated because he thought he was all in control, all powerful. He goes to Zelensky, and Zelensky basically says, "Fuck yourself. We know Vladimir Putin is doing it, and he's getting frustrated. He's getting distraught because he's going to fail. And he promised that he could shut this thing down, he could end this war. And clearly, he's starting to realize he can't. The only way Vladimir Putin's going to shut it down is if he gets to keep some of Ukraine, and there's no way that Vladimir Zelensky is giving up Ukraine. You're at loggerheads here. It's not going to be fixed unless Vladimir Putin gives in a little bit. And Vladimir Putin is just another Donald Trump. They can't admit they're wrong. They can't admit a loss, and they just double and triple down until everything fucking explodes.
Right. And you know what? Even if Donald Trump stops all the weaponry and the things going to Ukraine, I don't think that's going to be a long term thing because the non MAGA Senate Republicans and the non MAGA Republicans in the House, they, they have more than two brain cells. So they realize that there's a strategic reason why Ukraine cannot lose because of the westward movement of the Russians into Europe. Um, so, Poland is obviously a strategic position. We have missile systems and everything up in Poland, and and that's going to be for a security level. I mean, that's going to be devastating if the Russian, the Russians completely take over Ukraine. So,
Yeah.
I don't think that even if Trump stops sending aid to Ukraine, I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing because I think there'll be enough votes in the House and the Senate to probably do something down the road here. So we'll see.
Yeah, something's got to break loose here. I mean, of course, the EU is going to help Ukraine. They have a lot at stake here if Vladimir Putin is allowed to push
Right.
through. But Donald Trump just does not get it. I mean, Donald Trump believes what he's heard about Ukraine from Vladimir Putin, that they're like the Germans in the 1930s, that they committed all these crimes. When Ukraine has committed no crimes, there's been no evidence of such. But Donald Trump, he's like all the Trump-fucks. They hear something, they like it, so they stand by it as if it's real. I mean, they're fucking delusional. The one thing that Donald Trump said that was very telling, he said, "I'm being very tough on Russia." Well, we haven't seen any indication of that. And somebody said, "Well, have they made any concessions?" And Donald Trump said, "Yeah, Russia made a concession. They're not taking
What?
the whole country. They're not taking the whole country. They just want a couple small parts." He thinks that Russia is so powerful that they could just wipe them out in an instant. And
I,
obviously, that's not the case. Otherwise, it wouldn't be going on for 3 years.
Well, and here's the thing too. When this whole thing went down, I was like, man, Ukraine's gonna get run over. They're gonna,
I did
and they
too.
said, I thought it'd
yeah,
be over
in a
in
couple
two
months.
weeks. Like
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
like I really thought that. And then after it started kind of like getting a couple weeks into it, and I'm like, man, I'm like, we've been all buffaloed for years to believe that the Russian military
Is that powerful?
is that superpower. They're not.
No.
They're a joke. Like, and then as it further unfolded, they're using military weaponry and tanks and equipment that's like 1980s level shit. I mean,
Yeah.
and I started doing a little research about that, and basically, a lot of times what happens in Russia is their military leaders will tell Putin or their superiors that they're building up military and they're spending money here and there, but what they're really doing is they're stealing the money and funneling it to oligarchs. So
Right.
that's why their equipment and their munitions are shit because they actually haven't done holistic upgrades to their military. Might maybe in their fighter jets a little bit, but like the rest of their equipment is total garbage.
I
Well, and
I have a
their main power is their nuclear weapons, and I've heard that they haven't even kept up with those. They haven't
I
necessarily
doubt it.
maintained those. So they may not be the nuclear power they claim to be. We were obviously fooled by their army because it's not
Yeah,
powerful at all.
yeah. Many of their nuclear weapons don't may not work, but I don't want to find
Hey,
out.
I have a good friend who is actually my engineer who draws all of my elevator drawings. He's
Hmm.
Polish,
Okay.
and he went back to Poland a few times this year, which he hadn't been back in many years. But he's gone back recently because he's concerned about his fellow citizens and what's going on. So he's gone
Sure.
back to Poland, and he said to me, he's like, because I asked him full out, like, what do you think about what's going on? And this was probably 2 years ago, about 6 months after everything started, and he's 25 miles from the Ukraine border where his family lives, and he was there, and we're talking on WhatsApp because he's there, and I said, what do you think about what's going on? He said, the Russian military is based on nothing. They're based on a bunch of people who live literally in hovels in the middle of freaking nowhere that they call up, who have had 3 weeks of military training. They know literally freaking nothing, and they're going to send them out to war.
Yeah, they're a conscription army.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like they literally know nothing. They have they have barely any training. Like it's literally like they have no training. It's not like they have like us, like where they go to basic training, and like they literally like live in the middle of nowhere with nothing in cardboard
Right.
shacks,
Right.
in the middle of nowhere, and they're supposed to be able to deal with. That's why there was all those like technology issues with like the cell phones and all that stuff at the beginning of the war, like all those issues, because they're sending people who know nothing about technology, know nothing about anything except like a couple weeks of military training, and then they call them up and send them into war.
Well,
and that's why they're all getting killed, why Ukrainians are getting captured and babies are being raped, like why things are happening like they are, because they're not a disciplined army.
Right.
They're a bunch of people who literally live in the middle of freaking nowhere and are told, you got to go fight now, here's your uniform.
Right. And you have to remember that the Ukrainian, or I'm sorry, the Russian military has not been exercised the way that our military has.
No,
and
no.
and it's an unfortunate way that we have, you know, seem to be in perpetual wars for so many years. But their allies, the Iranians, the Chinese, none of those countries have been in active wars in basically modern history. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's been a long time since they've been in an active war. So they're at a significant disadvantage because the Ukrainians they would train with the European countries. So
Well,
so they get a lot of, um, military intelligence and strategists from Europe and Poland and France and the Germans. They're in there on the ground helping them strategize their attacks.
yeah, but all that is not even the point. Like, the Ukrainians are fighting for their fucking lives and their households,
I understand
their families.
yeah,
like, regardless of what their knowledge is, like that is way more powerful.
well, yeah, I understand that, but the strategy matters. The military experience
yes,
matters.
I agree. It does matter.
The warfare experience matters, and that's why they're a country, 1/8 the size of Russia is pushing them back and holding out for
3 years, 3.5 years now.
Yeah, almost 3. So that says a lot about, the disarray of the Russian military. There was a stretch there where the Ukrainians were killing their top brass, like day after day after day after day, because, like our military brass isn't out on the front lines where they can get hit. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they just don't know how to operate an effective battlefield, and
Well,
that's a telling tale. Like this is just my information is not based off me being a veteran, because I'm not, but I do a lot of reading and a lot of research, and the things that I've read about that is just it's just a total shit show amongst their leadership.
But I think they should be afraid of what they're asking for because they just might get it. If they were able to take over Ukraine, and then European countries were afraid of them trying to push further into Europe, like Poland or some of these other places. Well, let's be honest. Poland has a more formidable military than Ukraine does, and
Oh
some of
yeah,
those European countries, they would
Poland is no
devastate these
joke.
people.
Poland
They
will
would devastate
annihilate them.
Yeah,
Russia.
yeah.
Yeah.
Poland and France could run Russia over in a couple of days.
Poland has been itching and waiting for them to like break
Yeah,
a NATO treaty.
the
They're
Po-
dying for it.
the Poles don't like the Russians. I mean, that's
Like
just and
not
for obvious reasons
and
that go back historically.
and not only
Yeah.
do they not have the Polish army, they have all the Ukrainian citizens that have emigrated there behind them. It's a fight for homeland. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good if they break that NATO treaty. No way.
Well, the thing about it is the time they've spent in Ukraine, um, regardless of what we hear and regardless of what they say, the military's been decimated. They're not being truthful about things. Minora says here, Putin believed he had $70 billion or 70 billion worth of submarines that never existed. So the same thing that's happening to Donald Trump is happening to Putin. They're feeding him a line of bullshit just to keep him happy and making him feel strong, but most of it's bullshit. uh, Vladimir Putin might very well think he's stronger than he is and might be getting fooled about what's happening in Ukraine. But when you have 700,000 people come back dead, that, that's
Right.
gotta that's gotta make a point. And even if they did get into Ukraine, their military is so decimated they wouldn't have a chance against a reasonable military that was ready to fight.
Well, it's got to stand to reason that Putin was given a misconception about how the military operates. So I would imagine that, you know, 14, 16 months in and later, there was some people flying out of windows on the fifth floor
Yeah.
in the in their military operations areas because I mean they've just been embarrassed and over and over and over and over again. Like when the Ukrainians sunk the Moskva, like just over and over. They just got embarrassed on the world stage, and that's gotta Putin's not. He's a dictator. He's a fucking murderer. Like there's no way that people didn't get their throats slit over stuff like that. I just can't see that not happening.
What's weird about this, when you look at Donald Trump and you look at Vladimir Putin, and we know what we know, it looks like we've got a couple of paper tigers here. They're
Mm-hmm.
full of bravado, but they have no substance. They aren't as strong as they claim to be. They're just
Right.
evil, and they're putting people's lives at risk just for their own benefit. And once people realize that, hopefully they'll walk away from this shit. I can't believe that Vladimir Putin is even still alive in Russia for all the shit that Russians are going through economically.
Right. Well, he's got a lot of protection. I mean, it's just I just think that it's impossible, and I think half the time he has that castle out in I don't know where the hell it is. It's in freaking like Siberia or whatever, where you can't even get to
Yeah,
the motherfucker. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
right.
I just don't think that um, he's touchable because he has like all these body doubles and all this stuff. It's just because they know that. I mean, he knows that people want to make him go away. And and honestly, the reporting is that his health is very bad. So it may be just a matter of time before he's gone. But I think one of the biggest fuck ups that ever happened with the whole thing is that Obama did, and I'm not talking shit on Obama, but he should have done something when Russia invaded Crimea. He should have done something about it, and he didn't
Absolutely.
do anything. And that kind of was like the fuse that set the whole thing off. You know what I mean? It was a long fuse, but that kind of emboldened Putin to say, "Hey, I took Crimea. Why can't I take the rest?"
Right. You give him a little bit, and then he just tries to take it all. That's standard
Right.
procedure for a guy like Vladimir Putin. And you're right. Donald Trump made that comment. This is the kind of things he's saying. Why didn't Obama stop him when he took Crimea? This is Joe Biden's war. This is a stupid war. This isn't my war. If I'd been president, this would have never happened. Honestly,
No,
if Donald Trump had been president, it'd probably have been worse.
it would have been over with already, and Russia would have ran over Ukraine. That's what would
Yeah.
have happened if Trump was president.
Yeah, because when they first started out, everybody thought Russia would overrun Ukraine, including Ukraine. They were terrified.
Right.
They presumed that Zelensky would be assassinated or murdered one way or another. And
Right.
that never happened. And I think Ukraine has been a little emboldened over these last 3 years, realizing that they can hang with these people. So now they've got a little confidence, in spite of how terrible the war's been. They know they're not going to get overrun and beat up like everybody presumed would happen.
Well, they tried to kill Zelensky a couple times, but they failed at it. They failed
Yeah.
terribly at it. You know.
You,
What
you
what
talk
what is
about, go
Yeah.
ahead.
what what astonishes me is that Putin hasn't been assassinated.
We just talked about that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What I
Well, when you bring that up, it brings me, you watch Donald Trump, and Donald Trump loves the rallies, right? But you
Yeah.
don't see him going out anymore. I think he's a little fearful of his own safety at this point. However, I just heard he's going to Michigan to speak, presumably to a crowd. I think he may not get the welcome he's expecting. He thinks he's going to
No.
go to Michigan, this red state, and everybody's going to be cheering for him as they're being kicked out of jobs and farmers not having uh, anybody to buy crops. He's going to go, and I think he's going to be in for a rude awakening because he's not going to be welcomed as much as he thinks.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, once he does it, he'll never do it again. But it also puts in question about his personal safety because as many people
Right.
that hate Vladimir Putin, they hate Donald Trump too.
And don't forget, Stellantis is laying off like 700 people in the U.S. So that's not going to bode well for Donald Trump
right.
in Michigan either.
No, no, definitely not. Um,
Michigan does not need any more layoffs for sure.
no, definitely not. Dunn 647 said Republicans would have eviscerated Obama had he done something with Crimea. And that's something we definitely have to recognize. It's not
That's true.
any, there's a lot of things that Obama could have, should have done, but didn't do. But it wasn't necessarily his fault because the Republicans did everything to trip him up every step of
Yeah,
the
but
Sure.
way. I mean, that was
yeah,
Mitch McConnell's ploy. We want to make
Right.
sure he doesn't do anything, and they tried their hardest during that period.
it's also not like Obama could have foreseen what we are going to be going through with Trump either. Like it's not
I
like
know. Yeah.
there's a lot of things that could have been done, like codifying Roe v. Wade and things, things like that. Like, but nobody in a million years thought we were going to go through what we're going through now. We're going to see what we're having now. Like that.
When I made that comment about Obama, I wasn't blaming him, but what I'm saying is there could have been a better level of deterrence, and there wasn't. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a military action, but you could do other things, sanctions and other things to Russia to make them stop doing what they're doing. And none of that really happened.
No, no, nothing like that happened. I like Obama a lot. I pray for a presidency like that again because as much as he got some things done, maybe didn't get other things done, it was a very calm period. It was a scandal-free period. And we in
Right.
this country need something like that after the 10 years of bullshit that we've already gone through.
It
Yeah.
was, and that's why I like, and I know it's not a thing, but like a lot of people are like Obama 2024, like
2028.
or 2028, but like that to me is like it's heartening because it's not going to happen. It's not
No,
a
that's
thing,
silly.
but like that people actually want that kind of
They
presidency again.
Well, they
Says
want
a lot.
normalcy. They
Yeah,
want
that's
normalcy.
exactly that
They,
it says a lot that they want, like even though the Obama 2028 thing isn't a thing, but they want somebody who is going to bring back just So lack of stress.
Right.
I mean, I think every single one of us every day wakes up going, "What the fuck happened when I was asleep?"
Yeah.
Like it's a shit show.
I think that a lot of people are either they're scared or they're tired of being plunged into chaos all the time. Like
Right.
that's the
or on the converse, they love the chaos and that's what they want.
or they're complicit. There's only three categories you're really in. You know what I mean? Or maybe you're apathetic, but those are the two things. Like and I would say that the majority of Americans are either scared or they're tired of the chaos. That has to be the majority. And so, like what you just said, Obama, like he didn't really. I mean, he got the ACA done. He did some things. But he wasn't really like a flashy president by any stretch of the imagination. And you're right. That time was fairly peaceful. I mean, we did have a war going on, but it was kind of on the downslide of the war. You know, it wasn't like when George W. Bush was president. So it was a very kind of peaceful and calm period. And then, you know, we've run into the shit show for the last 10 years. And I think people are just wore out anymore. You know, people I talk to are just wore out.
We're 105 100 what 5 days 100 what is it 100
I don't know how many
6
days.
whatever
Too many days.
2-3 days. Yeah. I mean, it's been absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's just like I was talking to friends tonight, and I was like-minded friends, and I'm like, we're only like 100 and something days into this bullshit. Like, how do we deal with? And the guy I was talking to, he wanted to retire this year, but he can't.
No, he's fucked
because he's screwed because he doesn't know. He's nervous about Social Security. They lost a lot of money in their 401ks. He's like, I don't. He's 66. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm gonna wait one more year, and I'm like, do you wait one more year or do you not? Like, because if you retire now, Social Security is still a thing. Is it gonna be next year? Like it's a whole like. Some people, I mean, it's terrifying. It's really terrifying for people who are in that retirement age. Sorry,
yes,
which is not us,
which is
not
me.
far from it. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Well, you're retired, so you are fairly in a safe position as long as they don't get rid of Social Security altogether. But
right.
Like we're not. Our 401ks are tanking like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like TJ's lost like $40,000. I've lost 5 because my 401k is, I didn't start it that long ago, so I'm okay. But it's still like it's terrifying.
Right.
It's terrifying.
I've talked about that a couple times. I did lose a lot of money, but I'm not terribly worried about it because I have time because I'm only in my 40s. So I have time where I can gain enough back in my 401k where I'll be all right when I get there, right? I mean, it is disheartening to have 46 straight months of consecutive growth in my retirement, and then it all got taken away in like 10 weeks. I mean, that sucks, like, but I have a pension too, so even if my retirement is kind of fucked up, I'll be okay in the end, right? But what I feel badly about is that there's a lot of people, like I have the benefit and the luxury of being in a union where I have a pension, but there's a lot of people out there that work in, other sectors of industries in the private sector, what have you, that all they have is either they just have Social Security and that's it, or they have Social Security and they have a 401k. It may not be a huge nest egg of money, but that's going to matter to them in the end when they retire. So if these people that are like 60, 61, 62 years old, or maybe in that age realm, right? If whatever they lost right now, they're in a bad situation because they're never gonna make that back if the market comes back. And so that's the sad thing. I feel really terrible for those people that are right at the cusp of retirement because they got a beat down from Donald Trump that they'll never recover from.
Yeah, I'm not an emotional guy. I have empathy and such, but I'm not an emotional guy. But the things that upset me the most when I do lives, especially, or I get emails from people that currently count on Social Security, and that's all they
Mm-hmm.
have. And if they lose Social Security, if I lose Social Security, it would be hard, but I'll survive because I have other sources of income, a pension, and my wife has a pension, and I'm lucky in that regard. But not many people have that anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
those people that are struggling, and I think that may be the most vicious thing that Donald Trump has done. It's one thing to fuck up this country, fuck up our
Right.
military, do these things, but now you're taking people that are vulnerable, elderly people, maybe young people, young kids that are getting Social Security because their parent died or something like that,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they're having to worry every day. What's going to happen? I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to have
Right.
zero money. I can't go out and work for the money because I'm too old or too young or too infirmed. And Donald Trump is putting these people through this every day of the week. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
it's like doctors at least do no harm. Donald Trump does nothing but harm, and on top of it, he puts people in these stressful positions that they have to worry about it every day, and that pisses me off.
Yeah. Me too.
When my 66-year-old friend said to me today, I wanted to retire, but now I'm going to wait another year, I was devastated. Like, it really hurts me, like, to my soul to have to, like, hear him say that to me because he doesn't know what's going to happen. He doesn't know if he can retire because he doesn't know if Social Security is going to go away, or he doesn't know, that's horrible. It's horrible because
I think what
we worked our entire lives. Like, our Social
Well,
Security is our money that we paid into that fund.
well, the Trumplafucks say that it's an entitlement.
Right.
So
Well, which I
Yeah,
say all the time. Like, can if they decide they're going to get rid of Social Security, can we file a class action lawsuit? Because that's our fucking money.
but a lot of people don't realize, starting with Ronald Reagan, um, they Ronald Reagan kicked off the theft out of Social Security, and money got taken out of there and borrowed and never gotten paid back. Right. But what people don't realize is that all those problems and all the problems that Social Security has can be fixed easily. And the way it can be fixed is the Social Security cap. Elon Musk met the Social Security cap in the first 5 minutes of this year because the
right,
cap is like $165,000, right?
right,
So if the millionaires and billionaires, if they remove that cap and they have to pay in based upon their income, that's a game changer for Social Security. That will change everything because it'll be beyond funded if they took the
right.
cap off of there, and rightfully so. Like, I have to pay, like, I never reached that cap throughout the year. You know what I mean? Like, why should they?
Right.
Why
Well,
are they so fucking special that they don't have to pay in at the same proportion that I do? That's
well,
fucking bullshit.
and who's responsible for that is the Republicans, and it's yet another
Yes.
welfare case with the wealthy people. Give them a break because then they'll reinvest, which they don't do. The
No.
total trickle
No.
down theory has never worked. It will never work. And anytime somebody mentions it to me, I ask them, tell me when it's worked. It's not worked. I
Never
mean, it's
fucking worked.
theoretically it should work. Theoretically it should work, but they aren't accounting for the fact that these are greedy motherfuckers that only care about themselves.
Right.
So because they're like that, it does not work. I just, you know, the thing about it is when I turned 60 years old, I kind of retired early, not necessarily by choice, but I had a company that was pushing me out. My wife retired when she was 60 because she had her 30 years in. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point in time, I look back on my life and I said, we struggled, we juggled, we had stress, we went through a lot of shit. We've done this all our lives. Now maybe at 60, maybe we could just relax a little bit, bring our expenses down, just live life and have fun. And some people look at me like I'm a joke for saying that, but don't you think we've earned that? don't you think at some point in your life you should have an easy time, or at least
Right,
an easier time than you've had to enjoy it when you get older? But that's all people want. And apparently
right,
the Republicans don't want them to have that.
right. And no retiree or senior citizen should struggle and either
No.
pay their rent or eat. That's not a fucking option. In the richest country in the fucking world, retirees should not have to make that fucking choice whether they get their medication and pay their rent or they eat. That's fucking stupid and crazy.
And also have to struggle day to day with their medical care.
Yeah. It
Well,
that it's just the deck is stacked so bad, and people don't realize that the biggest scam in this country is insurance companies and pharmaceuticals. The two biggest scams in this fucking country.
Well, and Citizens United.
And Citizens United.
and the thing about it is at least we had Joe Biden and the Democrats trying to make inroads there and try to
Right.
fix that. But the moment Biden's gone and Donald Trump's in, they not only don't continue that effort, they may take us backwards to make sure we're fucked.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
everything they do is costing us money, and they just don't give a shit.
and I've seen more than one video, and I've talked to people in person, TikTok videos and people in person that when Joe Biden fixed the the negotiation for pharmaceuticals with Medicaid and Medicare,
Hmm.
um, and the insulin thing, people were paying like 16, $17 for their insulin, right? Donald Trump came in there and bulldozed the whole fucking thing, and now they're paying $190, you know, a month or whatever it is to get their insulin. How the fuck is that better for fucking people who have diabetes? I mean, it just they don't give a fuck about anybody.
No, and I think Donald Trump is so oblivious and so delusional and so stupid that he doesn't even understand what's going on. He's got a bunch of wealthy people around him saying, "Donnie, you got to do this. Donnie, you got to do that. They'll love you if you do that." And Donald Trump is so dumb that he will just do it. And then it becomes an effort to own the libtards. When the libtards start screaming about it, they go, "Oh, fuck you. We're going to hammer you." He doesn't
Right.
realize the effects on people, but what he really
No.
doesn't realize is the effects on the Republican Party. We talked
Right.
about Social Security, and I like to tell people don't worry so much about Social Security. That is a red line. There will be a revolution in this country, and it will probably be
Mm-hmm.
violent if they were to do something like that. I think
Yeah.
it's unlikely that they will do anything to Social Security. I mean, hell, they wanted to take money out of Medicaid, and now we got 12 or 15 Republicans going, yeah, I don't know if I want to sign on that. When it comes down to nut cutting time, and they got
Right.
to place their name on that vote, they know they're going to lose the next election, so they're going to be hard
Right.
pressed to actually do it.
Yeah. Well, if they cut Social Security, there's going to be gallows out in front of their offices. So, you know, I'm just saying,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's gonna be people outside their offices waiting for them. Senior
Yeah.
citizens and relatives of those people are going to be they're going to make them answer some very hard questions.
Well,
And
and if you don't believe us, all you have to do is go look at those videos where Chuck Grassley did two town halls. Chuck
right.
Grassley is 91 years old. He's been a U.S. Senator in a red state of Iowa for fucking decades. He's been reelected numerous times. But he goes to a town hall now, and people are seeing what's happening with the farmers, with the Medicaid, with Medicare, with Social Security. They're fucking angry and they're scared, and Chuck Grassley doesn't know what to do. This very popular guy in Iowa is now very unpopular.
Right. Yeah, and he got hammered by a red hat. He got hammered by
Yeah,
the guy. I mean,
yeah.
it
Yeah.
had to be embarrassing for him. You know, I, he probably walked away from that shocked that he's never experienced something like that in his entire time as a senator.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
I've told people I have a second account on TikTok now. It's Rational Boomer 2. And I do
Mm-hmm.
different stuff there. I might do some things humorous or personal or whatever like that. And
Right.
I suggested that Chuck Grassley was so old. He's so old that he went to prom with Laura Ingalls Wilder. And what's fr-
Oh,
and what
I
and what's
love
freaky
Laura
about
Ingalls
that
Wilder.
what's freaky about that is that means that Chuck Grassley banged half pint, which is troublesome to a man.
Oh my God. Oh,
The fact that I actually
oh.
understand that, love you.
Yeah, you have to be of a certain age to get that joke, but
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
You're gonna have to Google that, people.
Right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Go ask your parents. They'll,
Right.
if you're too young to understand that. But I think the Republicans are now starting to realize the heat is on, and they've got to do something. Um, when we get to the 2026, and if the Democrats take control of the House, certainly, and maybe the Senate, if they're able to do that, I think um, I think an impeachment is imminent, and I think a lot of Republicans might get on board at that point. If they've just gotten wiped out in 2026 midterms, they're going to want to
Right.
get rid of that motherfucker before 2028.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they I, they're gonna get their ass kicked in the midterm elections. There's no question about that. The Donald Trump's polls are worse than they ever were, and the best part is he the poll came out of Fox News, and he lost his shit. There was probably ketchup all over the freaking Oval Office because
Yeah,
Donald Trump got totally unhinged about he attacked Rupert Murdoch, his fucking homie. Like
yeah,
that's really crazy. And he went on the attack on Fox News. You know, that's
The truth hurts,
the truth
pal.
hurts. The truth hurt Donald Trump.
but the thing about it is that Donald Trump is so unhinged and so oblivious that in spite of prices going up, the stock market going down, the GDP going down, the war in
Right.
Russia and Ukraine, the Gaza war, he took the time yesterday to truth out his irritation with NFL owners
Oh
because
my
they
God.
didn't because they didn't draft Shador Sanders. He said,
Oh my
"Look,
god.
Deion Sanders is one of the greatest players in college and in pro football. He's got great genes. You guys need to draft Shador Sanders right now."
Well,
As
guess
if
what? He got drafted in what was it, fifth round?
Fifth round,
fifth
yeah.
Fifth
round,
round,
Cleveland.
and he at 4 million instead of 54 million.
Well,
But you know
what's
what?
fun, what's funny about this is that while he was in college, he was getting NIL payments last year of 5 million, and he would have gotten 6 million this year as a
Mm-hmm.
fifth round draftee. He's he'll be lucky if he gets two. So he's taking a pay cut to go into the pros, and
Yep.
Dion and he just got the rug pulled out from under them.
I
They,
I
they,
I
they went
I,
about this the wrong way.
I hate to say it, but I think the publicity of that whole thing caused him to drop down in the rankings.
Oh, his arrogance. I think the NFL just got tired of what's going on. They're seeing that
Right.
the athletes in college football are running the show, and they needed to make a point that that's not going to fucking happen in the NFL. I think they
Yep.
needed to make him. They had to make him an example.
He's a
Yes.
martyr. He's a martyr.
Well,
He's a
he's an
martyr.
example for sure.
Well, the thing about it is too what people don't maybe understand or remember about Donald Trump. It's ironic that Donald Trump would yell at the NFL owners because in the 80s, you guys are young, you don't remember this, but in the 80s, Donald Trump was desperate to own an NFL football team. Okay,
Um,
he was
We don't.
desperate to. Own,
we were alive in the 80s.
Mike,
well, yeah,
we're
but you were
we're
shitting your
seven.
pants, so
We're
um,
'70s kids, Mike.
yeah, okay. Uh, but 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 Donald Trump was desperate to own an NFL team. He had the money, he had the backing, he wanted to own an NFL team, and the NFL owners said, "Fuck yourself.
Fuck
We don't
Fuck
yourself.
need you.
yourself. Yep. Yeah.
We
Agreed.
don't
Yep.
need you in here." And
Yep.
then he bought a team in an upstart league called USFL. I remember because I
Yes.
Right.
worked at a radio
Remember
station. That was
USFL?
a
Yeah.
Yeah,
What a
I
joke.
was it was a joke. Well, it was doing okay for a while there until Donald Trump started getting involved in the USFL, and he surprisingly he ran that into the ground too. So
All
Donald
right.
Trump has a
Oh,
long
oh,
history of
really?
losing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, Donald Trump never runs anything into the ground.
yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap things up here for two reasons. Because it's Sunday, I got a birthday party I got to attend to, and I'm on my phone right now, and the battery's down to about 10%. And I don't know what
Oh
happens
no.
after I get past 10%. So
Well,
we're going to wrap things up.
I want you to do three things for me.
Okay,
One, tell Cindy I hope she feels better.
I'll do that.
Two, wish Junie a happy birthday.
I will definitely do that.
And three, tell your son Tony not to break any windows.
Break any windows. What do you mean?
You used that as an example on the podcast before about breaking the
Oh shit.
windows.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't remember half the shit I say. It's just weird. I mean, I'll tell you this. When I used to be a traffic reporter, I'd do the last traffic report of the day. I don't even listen to myself when I was doing traffic reports. I'd say, okay, there's a crash on such and such. Backup's about 2 miles. Then I'd wrap things up, get in my car, and drive right into that fucking backup. I'm not the most brilliant guy, and I don't listen to myself always. So, Rebecca and TJ, I appreciate you coming on and a last moment thing. It's always great to talk to you, and I don't get that opportunity in the lives to this extent. So I'm glad we had this time to do that. It's always good to hear from you.
Yeah, that was a good. It
Yeah.
was a good
Have a
podcast.
good night,
Thanks,
Mike,
Mike.
and tell Junie happy birthday.
I will. We'll be hugging her, and I got to tell Judy, do not hug Grandma. Do not hug. I'm not even sleeping
No.
in the bed. I'm not even sleeping in the bed tonight because I don't want to roll over and
Oh,
hit that arm because I may not wake up alive if I do something like that.
oh
Right.
no.
Oh no.
Tell
Well,
tell
So,
Cindy we love her and hope she feels better.
all right, I will do that. Thank you very much. And for those of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.